Hello, welcome to Jason Old Millennial. My name is Jason. Speaking here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. Today's video I'm going to showcase a big haul I had today. I did some shopping, went to my favorite places that I go to, which is Vintage Stock, where they have a lot of used vinyl and CDs and even movies. I think they have comic books, video games, figurines, whatever you call them, the Funko Pops. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff to collect there. I go there to look at the vinyl selection because they have old vinyl, usually for a couple bucks. You know, sometimes they can go up to $10 maybe, but usually a pretty good price to get them anyway. So I like to look for kind of unique vinyls I won't see at Walmart or whatever. So I went there first, got 10 vinyl, which I wasn't expecting to get that much, but man, since the last time I was there, I go there at least once a month. And since the last time I was there, they had a lot of new vinyl that I hadn't seen. Because usually I go there, you see the same vinyl still on sale that no one's buying. But then they usually stock it up with some new, or not new vinyl, but vinyl I hadn't seen yet there. And so when I find a good stuff, I always just grab it up since they're not very expensive. But I ended up getting 10 because if you get 10 vinyl, then you get $10 off or something like that. So I was like, okay, I'll get 10, get the $10 off. I don't know if that helped me in the end or not, price-wise. But I was like, yeah, a deal's a deal. So I went for it. So yeah, 10 vinyl. And then I go over to Barnes & Noble's, which is nearby Vintage Stock in a place called Zona Rosa in Kansas City. And there, it's funny, I don't get books usually there. I usually look for movies. That's kind of my main movie place because there's not a lot of really good places nowadays to go get to get movies. You got Walmart and Barnes and Nobles is the only ones I really have. Anyways, and so Barnes and Nobles, while they don't have a huge selection, but what they do have, they usually have DVDs for and a lot of times they're like 20% off, 50% off. So they have a lot of DVDs there, which I've been getting more DVDs lately just because they're cheaper. And just getting whatever movies I find that strike my interest, I'll grab it. I don't get a lot of Blu-rays there because they're a little more expensive usually. My idea is that I want to get as many movies for the least amount of money. For the most part, I do go get a Criterion collection because Barnes & Noble holds a Criterion collection, which is kind of cool. They have a whole kind of wall just for Criterion collection. And they don't have everything, of course, because there's too many movies for that, but they have a pretty good, set of Criterion collection movies. And I go look at them because I love collecting unique, like steelbooks. I like collecting the Criterion collection because they're just different than just buying a regular Blu-ray or DVD. It feels like you're buying something special, Only problem is they're very expensive because Criterion collection movies are at least $40 for the movie. Some of them are $50. So I did buy one Criterion collection, which I'll talk about here, and that made the price go way up, unfortunately. But I don't know, it's hard not to get a Criterion when I'm there because it's the only place I see Criterion collection. So it's like, I might as well grab one when I'm there usually, even though it's so expensive. That's why I only go about once a month maybe to grab some stuff. But anyways, long intro there to kind of get into. Let's first get into the movies I bought. I got Truman Show on DVD, special edition. Yeah, I saw this in the movie theater. Was it 97? I want to say 98. And I was a huge Jim Carrey fan in the 90s. I saw every Jim Carrey movie that came out. He was my favorite actor by far, I think. Him and Tom Hanks were like my two favorite actors of the 90s. And I even had a birthday cake where my mom did a picture of Jim Carrey like in Ace Ventura or something. That's how big of a fan I was at the time. This was interesting because it felt like he was getting a little more dramatic. Most of his roles were very, very silly. I mean, the two Ace Ventura movies, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, very silly stuff. And this is still some comedy elements, but definitely more dramatic work for him, which I thought he did a great job. The overall premise is amazing. The best part about this movie to me is just the overall premise of a guy that doesn't know he has it. He's the most popular reality show. This is way before reality shows became really a big thing too, which is cool. But he's the biggest reality TV show star. He doesn't even know it. Very cool idea. And you got Ed Harris, Oscar nominated performance as well as Laura Linney, Paul Giamatti in a small part. Yeah, really good movie. Definitely one I felt like when I saw it, Barnes and Nobles. I was like, yeah, I gotta have that in my collection. I really enjoy that movie. Then I got The Greatest Showman, starring Hugh Jackman. You got Zac Efron, Michelle Williams, Rebecca Ferguson, Zendaya. Yeah, I saw this in the movie theater with my dad actually when it came out because I love musicals. So I'm always going to the movies to see musicals. Musicals are like these big epic, that are, to me are so much fun in the movie theater. Like I'll go see a movie if it's a musical. Like I might go. I don't see the movies very often in the movie theater, but like I might go see Wicked. I don't know much about Wicked, but I know it's supposed to be a really good musical. So I'm like, I might go see Wicked just because it's a musical. I saw Cyrano in the theater. It was like the first movie back from COVID. I saw Cyrano in the movie theater and really enjoyed that as well. And yeah, love musicals. And this is this is one of my favorite musicals. I mean, definitely it was in my top 10 favorite musicals of all time. Um, Music is just phenomenal. Um, Trying to see, I can't remember all the songs are. If I could, I would tell them. But even the first song, "This is a Great Show," this is really great. Um, This Is Me is should have won the Oscar. So crazy he didn't win the Oscar, but amazing performance by that actress who plays a bearded lady in here. Just vocally, just amazing. Plus, it's a really good message. Uh, I even like the Zendaya, Zac Efron song about the stars. It's written in the stars, or whatever. Another great song. But is it Million Miles Away or something like that? It's a great song. Never Enough. I mean, so much good stuff. Yeah, I love this musical. So definitely thought I'd love to get the Blu-ray, but every time I look at the Blu-rays, they're always like $30, and I'm like, I don't want to spend that much money. So I was like, I'll just get the DVD, I guess. It's not the highest quality, but good enough for me, I guess, for the time. Another movie I saw in the movie theater when I was a kid and really loved it was Rudy. First movie I saw Sean Astin really in, and he went on to do Lord of the Rings and other stuff. But this was really a kind of a star-making vehicle for Sean Astin, I would say, in a way. And a story I never knew about, of course, based on a real true story of a guy named Rudy something who wasn't very big, wasn't really that good of a football player, but he had a lot of heart. And he got to play in one game at his senior year, anyways, which is incredible for Notre Dame, one of the greatest like football schools of all time. So it was kind of a dream come true for him. It's a good, feel good, inspiring movie, that kind of thing. So yeah, I saw this. I'm like, yeah, I should get this. This is a good movie from my childhood. Then I grabbed Spaceballs, one of my favorite spoof comedies, one of my favorite Mel Brooks movies. Yeah, Star Wars spoof, of course, big Star Wars fan, so I always loved the Star Wars spoof. And I've seen this since I was a kid. I remember watching this as a kid. I love spoof movies. I used to watch them all the time as a kid, and still love watching them. So unique, in their comedy, and I love how they kind of very close to Star Wars, somehow kind of making fun of it a little bit with their characters. Anyways, Rick Moranis really, he's like the best part of this whole. It's Dark Helmet instead of Darth Vader. Great performance there. Bill Pullman in a kind of one of his early roles. I feel like before he felt like Independence Day is when I really knew who Bill Pullman was, but he's kind of the Han Solo. John Candy's the Chewbacca, but he's Mog, half man, half dog. Mel Brooks, of course, plays Yogurt, kind of like Yoda. Daphne Zunga, who plays kind of the Princess Leia part. And then Joan Rivers plays like the C-3PO. Anyways, but yeah, love this comedy. Definitely had to get it. Another really inspiring feel-good movie that I saw in the theater, October Sky. First movie I saw Jake Gyllenhaal in, and he was young at this time. And I remember I became a Jake Gyllenhaal fan as soon as I saw this movie because I thought this movie was great. I really loved this movie. And when I saw him in, I was like, man, this guy can really act. And he's playing a teenager. I don't know how old he was at the time. He was not very old, like I said, playing a high schooler. And then his career just, skyrocketed since. This is not his first movie, but to me, this is the movie that really made Jake Gyllenhaal like a star. And he started getting more things, and pretty soon he's an Oscar-nominated actor. Also, the first movie I saw Chris Cooper in, and Chris Cooper's another guy. He was so good in this movie, and I thought, man, this Chris Cooper, I'm now a fan of him too, because I saw this and thought, man, he is so good as the dad here. Very good performance. I can't believe they didn't get Oscar nominations. They were so good here. But Chris Cooper go on to win an Oscar for adaptation, and he's such a great actor in a lot of stuff. Of course, Laura Dern, Oscar-winning actress now. So yeah, good cast overall. Really good, inspiring story based on a book by the real guy that's based off of Homer Hickam, who writes about being from a coal mine town, but doesn't want to spend his life in the coal mines, which is very hard and short life expectancy, I guess you'd say. And he wanted to build rockets, and that was a new thing at the time. That was like before, this is like the 50s, before we started our space program. And he would go on to work with NASA, of course, later on. Anyway, so really cool story anyways. But yeah, great. I mean, it's very emotional. The musical score is amazing as well. I love the musical score. I don't even know who does it. If it's anybody special, I don't see who does it, but whoever does it, Mark Isham. I don't know Mark Isham. Man, great score. All right, I got one Blu-ray. Speaking about musicals, one of the great musicals of all time, I definitely needed it, and that was Westside Story, which I saw on Blu-ray at Barnes & Noble's. Even though it was a little more expensive, I still grabbed it because I was like, it's crazy I don't have this in my collection. I've got a lot of the classic musicals in my collection, and I needed this one. This is the 50th anniversary edition. Of course, won Best Picture in 1961, won like a bunch of Oscars, like 9 Oscars. It was like the biggest Oscar-winning movie at the time. I know my friend Norrin Rad from Norrin Rad 989. This is his favorite musical, so I know he'll be glad that I got this. I know he has this as well, I believe on Blu-ray. But yeah, what can you say? It's a musical kind of based off of Romeo and Juliet. I mean, you got so many classic songs. Sorry. Maria and Somewhere, Tonight, whatever. Officer Crumpkey has always been kind of my favorite song. It's a funny song, but very catchy. But yeah, also great dance. Some great dance movements as well. So West Side Story on Blu-ray. And then the last movie I got, again, I said I got one Criterion. I usually grab one Criterion collection when I'm there, even though they're so expensive. I do love adding to them. I've been getting a lot more Criterion collections lately. I don't know, kind of enjoy getting them in my collection here. And they usually have good special features on them as well. But I got Some Like It Hot on Criterion. From 1959, it's one of the, if you don't know, it's considered one of the greatest comedies of all time. I think it definitely has one of the greatest comedic performances of all time with Jack Lemmon. Jack Lemmon here is so funny in this movie. It's one of his best performances. He even got nominated for Best Actor for doing a comedy. That's how good he was, But this is during a time where comedians maybe comedies would get a little more Oscar love than they do now. But still, he was so good in this movie. Of course, you got the Marilyn Monroe, classic Marilyn Monroe performance. And you have Tony Curtis there also. Of course, you're looking at it, what's going on here. Well, Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis, they're in a band. He plays saxophone and Jack Lemmon plays bass, it looks like. And they witness the Valentine Day Massacre in Chicago, and they're on the run because the mob is after them because they witnessed this murder. And so they're kind of trying to hide from the mob, and so they find out there's a all-women's band with Marilyn Monroe as one of the members, and they decide to dress in women's clothing and pretend to be women, which is obviously they look like men dressed up in drag. They're not the most convincing, but they do a good, comedic part, especially Jack Lemmon trying to do the girl voice and everything. And they get onto this all-women's band and travel with them. in order to hide from the mob. That's basically the whole plot, anyways. And they fall in love with Marilyn Monroe. Both Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis really like Marilyn Monroe, and they're both kind of fighting for her. But yeah, definitely had to get it. When I saw this on Criterion, I was like, yeah, it's definitely one of those classics I had to get. But it looks like it has a commentary and a lot of special features on there, so I'll be excited to get into, see all that. All right, now to get to the vinyl that I bought. First, I got 2 studio albums. First, we got Foreigner, Double Vision is named the album here. And Foreigner, I'm not like super familiar with them. I know they have a lot of huge hits though, and I liked a lot of their hits. And I listened to one of their albums called 4, which is their 4th album, and I thought that was a really good album. So I'm really not familiar with this specific album from Foreigner, but so far what I've heard from them, I'm liking Foreigner, and it seems like this is one of their big albums. I think I know Double Vision is one of their big songs, so I think this is considered one of their good albums. Again, I know Briar from Briar's Music Showcase. You probably have this album on CD. You can probably tell me in the comments if this is a good album or not. Also, Scott from Sound Up Studios. I think you're a fan of Foreigner. You might tell me if you know this album. Hopefully this is a good buy. I usually don't like buying albums if I haven't heard them or I don't know about them. So this is more of a blind buy where I bought it hoping I'll like it. So hopefully I picked a good one. I think I did, so we'll see. But like I said, you got Double Vision and Hot Blood are the 2 big songs off of here that I'm familiar with, so we'll see. And to make a place for them. All right, then I got a Paul McCartney album, Back to the Egg. I'm collecting, this is McCartney and Wings, part of the Wings era. Yeah, so it's cool seeing this because my goal is to collect all of Paul McCartney's albums on vinyl and CD. I got quite a bit on CD and I got some on vinyl as well. And so this is one I haven't gotten yet. So I definitely had to pick it up when I saw it at the Vintage Talk. Anyway, so I'm happy to get this. I'm not real familiar with it, to be honest. I even forgot this is an album. This is one of the more forgettable albums to me, just because I haven't heard it too many times and I don't really remember much about it. And looking at the songs at the back, I'm not familiar with the songs, so don't know if it's any good, but again, I'm just collecting because I want to get all, I'm a big Paul McCartney fan, so I want to get all of his stuff. So grab this anyways. So again, Nick from Towns of Fire 5, I'm sure you've heard this recently. You can tell me what you think about this album. I got a couple of best of albums. I got the best of Peter, Paul, and Mary, 10 years together. So this is, I guess, 10 years into their discography or into their being a band. And yeah, Peter, Paul, Mary is one of the great early like folk trios, anyways, and good harmonies, good folk music. I like some of their stuff, so I was like, yeah, they're a big name. I'd love to get a best of, you know. You got Blowin' in the Wind, great version of Bob Dylan's song. Some of these songs I'm not familiar with. I dig Rock and Roll Music, it's a good song. Side 2, you got Leaving on Jet Plane, a great John Denver song that they made famous first. John Denver wrote it, and I think he even recorded it, but then they recorded a version that became a hit on the radio. So this is a good version of Leaving on Jet Plane. And then you got Puff the Magic Dragon. That's my favorite Peter, Paul, and Mary song. I really love that song. I definitely got this because I really wanted to get Puff the Magic Dragon. I was like, yes, I'd love to listen to that, plus some other good stuff here. If I Had a Hammer, I know it was like a big hit for them, but yeah, so Peter, Paul, and Mary. I then got the very best of the Everly Brothers. I do like Everly Brothers, one of my favorite groups from the 50s and early 60s period. Yeah, they were kind of the gold standard of duos. I felt like everybody that wanted to get into music wanted to be like the Everly Brothers, one of the most influential groups out there. Like Simon Garfunkel would take that reign, I think, as the gold standard, but before them it was the Everly Brothers. And so many other bands and artists I've heard said they wanted to be like the Everly Brothers, basically. So definitely one of those big groups or big duos, artists that I needed to get more. I don't have any records of them, so I need to get something. A best of is pretty good, so I'm glad I saw this at Vintage Stock. I mean, you got Bye Bye Love, Till I Kissed You, Wake Up Little Susie. So those three, those three are just fantastic songs. Kathy's Clown's my favorite. It's on here. All I Have to Do Is Dream, another classic. Those are the ones I'm most familiar with. Maybe I know some of these other ones, but yeah, glad to get some Everly Brothers in my collection. Got a couple of like soundtrack music here. I got one soundtrack here, and that is How the West Was Won, the original soundtrack to the movie. And if you don't know this movie, this is like one of the biggest epic westerns of all time. It's like 3 hours at least, maybe more. It's a really long movie. But it's probably one of the best westerns, considered one of the best westerns. Very popular movie. And it's got one of the greatest casts of all time. It's probably the most impressive thing. And the movie takes place over like, I want to say like, I don't know, 3 generations. Like the movie, it kind of follows this family as they go out west and, you know, set up a home and everything. And I think we watched in like 3 generations. I mean, the movie takes place over like 3 generations or something like that. So there's almost these time jumps in the movie of different generations and how their era and how they, you know, what they're doing in their era of the family. But you got, you know, starring Carol Baker, Lee J. Cobb, Henry Fonda, Carolyn Jones, Carl Malden, Gregory Peck, George Peppard, Robert Preston, Debbie Reynolds, James Stewart, Eli Wallach, John Wayne, Richard Widmark. Spencer Tracy narrates the whole thing. You also got Walter Brennan in here, Andy Devine, Raymond Massey, Agnes Moorehead, Harry Morgan, Thelma Ritter, Russ Tamlin. Incredible cast. Anyways, but this is the soundtrack. And I don't know. Again, I was trying to get 10 vinyls so I can get $10 off. So I wasn't sure if I wanted this, but I grabbed it because I think it has a pretty good soundtrack to it. It's an epic movie, so I was like, I'm sure it has a good soundtrack. I love listening to soundtrack music. It's one of my favorite things to listen to. So love getting more of that into my collection. So I said, I might as well get it. And I feel like I see it all the time when I go buy vintage stock. It's always been there. So, all right. Then I got one Christmas album. If another thing, I have a couple. This is such a cool collection because I've got a variety of stuff here. When I look at stuff, I love getting, like I said, I love getting soundtrack music or Broadway music too. I get original cast Broadway stuff on vinyl if I can. That I also love picking up Christmas. I always pick up a Christmas album when I go by. It seems like this time I got Merry Christmas by Johnny Mathis, which is cool. Johnny Mathis is a really good singer, and I think he's really well known for his Christmas songs. So this seems like a really good Christmas album to get. You know, or Johnny Mathis is a good artist to get singing Christmas because that's kind of what he's known for, if I remember right. I do have a like greatest hits, Johnny Mathis greatest hits that my mom bought me a couple years ago on vinyl. Yeah, good singer, more of a crooner. He feels like more of that 50s, like 40s, 50s crooner style. Anyway, he's got just a smooth voice. But yeah, a lot of Christmas classics on here anyway, so good. I'm glad to get more add to, especially I love getting old. I do love getting some of these older artists' Christmas albums. It's a lot of fun. I got Brenda Lee, and I got recently I got Brenda Lee, and then I got I forget his name, but I got someone else recently as well on Christmas. So it seems like I'm always getting somebody. All right, and then I've got like 4 comedy albums. I do love getting comedy albums as well because it's kind of an unusual thing, but especially older comedy albums because that used to be a bigger deal. Getting comedy albums on vinyl and the whole family getting together and listening to them. In fact, when you talk to a lot of comedians, a lot of times say, how'd you get into comedy? It's usually like, oh, when I was a kid, we used to have, you know, like a Steve Martin album or, you know, whatever, Red Fox album, Richard Pryor album, George Carlin. You know, they always had like these old school comedian, I say old school, 60s, 70s comedians. And we used to listen to them. That's when I got into comedy. And so I kind of like this idea of getting these old comedy records somewhat. Because I don't know too many people in my group, my vinyl community that collect comedy albums. So I got this fly flying around. So I picked up 4 actually. First I got The Great White North by Bob and Doug McKenzie. That's the character names. These are of course 2 famous Canadian comedic actors from Second City, the comedy kind of Saturday Night Live in Canada, big comedy group, anyways. And you got, I know that's Rick Moranis, plays one of the, these are McKenzie brothers characters, and last name's Thomas. It's something Thomas. I'm forgetting his first name, but they did these characters on the show, anyways. And I'm not that familiar with Second City. I just know like all the huge names that came out of there. Some of them went to Saturday Night Live even. All just so many great comedians came out of that Second City TV, whatever you want to call it. And I'm familiar with this group a little bit, not super familiar with. So this is kind of like again, a blind buy. I don't know if this album's gonna be funny at all, but I was like, I'd give it a try. I've heard of them. They seem like they're they're popular in Canada. I don't know if there's any subscribers of mine that are from Canada. Maybe you can tell me. I'm guessing they're pretty popular in Canada as a comedic group. Yeah, the only thing I know is 12 Days of Christmas is a Christmas song that's played on the radio every year. I always hear that. Pretty funny song overall. Instead of, the normal 12 Days of Christmas, they're singing 12 Days of Christmas, but they're putting in more Canadian, I guess, type items. The funniest part is instead of a pear tree, whatever, and a partridge in a pear tree. Instead of a partridge in a pear tree, it's a beer or something like that. And they go, it's something and a beer or something like that. And then pretty soon they just go, let's just say beer, because they love drinking beer. Pretty funny one. So I know that. I do love the album title or the song titles, whatever you want to call them, are pretty funny. The side one, the very first track is called "This Is Our Album, Eh?" And then side two, the first song is "Welcome to Side Two," is the name of the track. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then the very last track of the album is "Okay, This Is the End, Eh?" So great track names. I love it. Anyways, but yeah. So interested in seeing what I get out of this. I'm not sure what to expect out of that. This one is so cool. I was really surprised. I was like, wow, they put this on vinyl? It's kind of a cool idea, but it's called Saturday Night Live. And this is the original Saturday Night Live cast, of course. Chevy Chase, Garrett Morris, Dan Aykroyd, Gilda Radner, Jane Curtin, Lorraine Newman, and John Belushi. And if you don't know me, I'm a pretty big fan of Saturday Night Live. Mostly the 90s and 2000s, like that era. I love that era. Was a huge fan. So much great classic comedy sketches. This is, of course, original. I've seen the first like 3 or 4 seasons before. And to me, they're not as funny. And that might be controversial because I didn't grow up in this era. But I know if people that grew up in the 70s, they would say this was the best era. They'll say these are the funny. But these are very funny people. I mean, Chevy Chase, especially, Dan Aykroyd became comedic stars in the 80s period, I would say. John Belushi, of course, died too soon to really become a star. He would have been. Gilda Radner has done very well as well. Anyway, so yeah, it was a kind of, so unique of a cast, so unique of an idea. But yeah, so this is, so I was looking, I was like, Saturday Night Live, how do you put Saturday Night Live on vinyl? What is this? And I looked at the back, and it looked like it's skits and stuff from the first season, because it came out in 76, and that was the first season. 75 to 76 was the first season for Saturday Night Live. So my guess is these are excerpts of sketches from the first season. Like I said, the first season, not the funniest season they had. I think it gets way better in the third season when Bill Murray becomes a bigger thing and Bill Murray really stars. Well, he came in the second season, but I feel like third season, Bill Murray really was hitting his strife. And to me, Bill Murray was the funniest of the kind of original kind of cast era. Of course, Chevy Chase only was there for the first year, so this must be the first year of Saturday Night Live, because he would leave after the first year. So it's kind of cool, though. Kind of cool to have my collection. I don't know if it'd be that great. I do see we have Word Association with Chevy Chase and Richard Pryor, which is a really funny sketch and very, one you could, it's hard to play out loud nowadays because they do say a certain word that you can't use. But in the context, it's an absolutely hilarious sketch. But some of these other sketches I kind of recognize, some I don't recognize. So we'll see. But man, it's so cool just to have this on vinyl. Like I never knew this existed. Now I'm like, it's cool. I got a really cool, unique, album into my collection that I don't know if anybody else has. All right, last two is from Steve Martin. And like I said, I like picking up comedy albums. I got some Bob Hope's and some other stuff, but I don't have any Steve Martins. And Steve Martin is an actor I really like as a comedian, especially in that 70s, 80s period, and into the 90s even, and 2000s even. He's got some good stuff. I can't say I'm a big fan of his stand-up material. I've heard him do stand-up. I don't think it's the funniest thing. But he was huge. He was one of the biggest stand-ups of the 70s. I mean, he would sell out arenas. Like, he was the first comedian that would, like, sell out, like, I say arenas. I want to say arenas, like, something like that. He used to sell out big stadiums, which nobody else was doing at that time. But so I found two of them, which I was excited because I'm like, wow, I now I got some Steve Martin in my collection. I got Steve Martin. Comedy is Not Pretty. Cool cover there. I like the yellow. Of course, him in drag there. I know nothing about these albums, so we'll see what's going on here. But still, I think it's very cool. Interesting insert of a clown there, the backside. Still, I don't know if anybody knows anything about Steve Martin albums. I don't even know what the big ones are or anything, but kind of interested in hearing them, see what I think. I got this is called "Let's Get Small" by Steve Martin. Very zany. Again, he's a very physical comedian, so I'll see how he is on when I can't see him and just have to listen to him. Again, you got him and the balloons there, and then him smoking cigarettes, because the first track is called "Smoking," I think. So he must have a big smoking. Or the first on side 2, the first track is "Smoking," so it must have a whole smoking thing. Anyway, so yeah, so excited to get some Steve Martin in there. Expand my comedy albums, which I have on vinyl anyway. So yeah, that's all my big haul. Like I said, this is a huge haul. Wasn't expecting to buy this much, but I don't know, it's hard when you start buying and you just keep seeing stuff like, I gotta have that. And when you can get them for if you get most of the stuff I got not for very much money, it's easy to buy a bunch of them, and it ends up being a lot, but you feel like you got a lot out of it. Anyway, so feel free to comment. What do you think about what I got? What was your favorite item? All that. Love to read your comments, and I appreciate them. But besides that, thank you for watching the video. Thank you for liking it. And thank you to all my subscribers for supporting me. I appreciate you all, and I hope you have a good day.